The pronoun is a word that substitutes a noun or several nouns. You use a pronoun when you want to avoid repeating the noun that precedes it. The following chart shows how they are classified. Personal pronouns refer to people with the only exception of it, which refers to ideas, animals, or inanimate objects. Personal pronouns are said to be classified according to the person they represent. Most of the times, personal pronouns are used after having a previous reference in the sentence. If this reference is not mentioned, then there could be some ambiguity in the sentence. Who is she? Who does the personal pronoun she refer to? Reflexive pronouns may be used in two ways. One, to express an action that reflects on the subject. The other, to make emphasis in the action. Notice that when we want to express emphasis, the reflexive pronoun is always placed right after the personal pronoun. Reciprocal pronouns are used when each of two or more subjects is acting in the same way towards the other. For example, A is talking to B, and B is talking to A. When can we use these reciprocal pronouns? There must be two or more people, things, or groups involved. This means we cannot use reciprocal pronouns with I, you in singular, he, she, it. People involved in the sentence must be doing the same thing. Look at the following examples. Each other is generally used in more examples than one another. That's because in general one another is more formal, therefore less often than each other. Also, some people say that one another is only for three or more people or things, but there is no real justification for this. Objective pronouns are used to make reference to people or things. They substitute the names of the people we talk about, the people we refer to, or the people who benefit or suffer from the action of the verb. They are always placed after the main verb in the sentence. In example A, the objective pronoun me receives the benefit or the action of the subject of the sentence. Paul and Mary. In other words, me is being presented with a gift, the book. In example B, the objective pronoun you is the one person that subject Bill refers to. Possessive pronouns are used to identify the owner of something. We will generally find them at the end of the sentence, as in Sometimes we can find possessive pronouns at the beginning of a sentence to express emphasis, as in there is not possessive pronoun for it. Instead, the possessive genitive is used to denote possession. So when we want to express that something belongs to a non-human being, like an animal, we use the possessive genitive, as in the possessive genitive is mostly used to express possession, but also description. In any case, it is used with animate beings, like people, inanimate objects in general. It is made by adding an apostrophe and an s at the end of the name of the owner, as in if the name is a regular plural ending in s, we only add the apostrophe at the end, as in sometimes the possessed object is omitted if there is reference enough to understand the sentence. In some cases, the genitive does not denote possession. It is rather used to describe an object. This case applies when what we say is a property of or otherwise associated with an object rather than something that object actually owns. This case is known as the descriptive genitive. In the two previous examples, we see that although the sun and the moon both have light, it doesn't necessarily mean they own light as a material possession. There are two things to consider here. The first is that having not always implies possessing, especially when the subject is an inanimate object. The sentence is a description of the parts that compose the table. It does not mean the table owns the four legs because it bought it. Possessing material objects is a human activity. When you possess something as a thinking being, you are aware of that. In fact, if you want to possess something, you work hard for it until you get it. To possess something takes consciousness. So, going back to the examples in E and F, we see that the sun and the moon are not aware of the light they have. Therefore, they don't possess light as a material good. What example E rather expresses is a quality of the sun. It is a description of a property of the sun. In example F, we're talking about a property associated to the moon, its reflection. Now, the second consideration here is that possession not always implies ownership. It also implies to show a particular quality, ability, or skill when it refers to inanimate objects. The sentence implies a description of the quality of the drug, that is, what the drug can do to tumors. In this case, the verb possess is used as a synonym of have, which implies a description of the capabilities of the drug. By no means the sentence implies that the drug owns, as a material item, the potential to suppress tumors. In conclusion, the examples previously described show clearly how the genitive can also be used to express description. Demonstrative pronouns substitute nouns. They are used to point out animate or inanimate objects. This is used to point out animate or inanimate objects which are singular and near. That is used to point out animate or inanimate objects which are singular and far. These is used to point out animate or inanimate objects which are plural and near. Those is used to point out animate or inanimate objects which are plural and far. Relative pronouns are used to introduce subordinate clauses which include extra information, generally about the subject. Example: whose, whom, and sometimes that refer to people. Which and that refer to things. Interrogative pronouns are basically used in questions. Indefinite pronouns do not usually refer to a specific antecedent. Most indefinite pronouns express the idea of quantity: several, few, both. Many people are not sure when to use who or whom. In fact, even many native English speakers get confused with these two relative pronouns. Who is the subject form of the pronoun and should therefore be used as a subject of a sentence or subordinate clause. Look at the following examples. In example A, who is the subject of the sentence in the question? You can prove it by substituting the relative pronoun by a name, as in B, the girl is the subject of the clause who is in charge, and the relative pronoun who takes its place in the clause. It is often helpful to reconstruct sentences in order to determine to use who or whom. Also, keep in mind the similarities between he, who, and him, whom. If you can substitute him, you can use whom. If you have to substitute he, then use who. The antecedent is a noun that the pronoun replaces. Within sentences, the pronoun must agree with the antecedent in number, singular or plural. The pronoun in sentence A is there, and the antecedent is person. This sentence is not grammatically correct because the word person is singular and the word there is plural. So the correct sentence is B. People most commonly make this mistake in their writing because they are trying to avoid using gender-specific language. However, it is more important to make sure that the writing is grammatically correct. Either use his or her, as in sentence B, or change the entire sentence to the plural, as in see. Pronouns like everyone, each, and someone are singular, not plural. So sentence D is incorrect because the indefinite pronoun is singular. The correct choices are either B in singular or C in plural. An ambiguous pronoun reference is one in which the antecedent is not clear. Take a look at the following sentence. Who is her? Without a previous reference, it is impossible to know who her is. This sentence is ambiguous. So the next example is a clear reference. In this case, we know her refers to Emily. In this case, we don't know who broke into tears, Tom or Peter. The best way to clarify the ambiguity is by stating the name of the person who started to cry, as in